Noel Meade was born and raised in Castletown, in this very house actually, though he wasn't born of racing stock. A farmer's son, he inherited this whole farm back in the 70s. He turned it into Tuva Stables, which became one of the most successful racing yards in the country. And recently, he sent out over 2,000 winners.
They say the journey of 2,000 winners starts with a single good horse. For Noel, that horse was Tuva.
Pal of mine, a fellow called Michael Condor, a farmer that lives down the road, and myself bought a horse off Buster Harty for 100 quid at the sales. He had been pin-fired and wherever, he was called Tuva. And Tuva was, I was riding him and training him, and at the time CIE had an arrangement with the Racing Board of Ireland that they were paid by the Racing Board to travel the horses around free. It was a grant that you got. And so we'd load up on CIE and we travelled the length and breadth of the country around with this Tuva. And I rode him, so there wasn't costing us any money. And he was a great little money machine because he was always placed. He didn't win that much, but he was always placed. Probably was very badly ridden. So then, after Tuva, then a few people asked me to take a few horses. And
that's why you named this place Tuva?
Yeah, which is pretty stupid because it means you go.
Despite hitting the top as a jumps trainer, Noel started out on the flat and even provided the choir boy, Walter Swinburne, with his first Irish winner.
He rode a winner at the Curragh. That was Walter Junior, because Walter Senior rode a winner for me at Royal Ascot, and Lester rode quite a bit for me when he was coming over early on. We had a few successes, and that one there actually that is on the wall is Lassamana. She was second in the Guineas the following year. But you're right, yeah, I spent a lot of time training flat horses. When I started off originally, I trained anything that anyone would give me, and I suppose maybe we still do that, but then I sort of pushed more towards the flat, because it was more like when you bought a yearling, and I used to buy biggish colts with sort of stamina pedigrees rather than speed pedigrees, and like you had something left at the end. If they didn't make a flat horse, they made they were still had a potential to be a jumper, and you could sell them on and make money, or even race them on or whatever. But I bought the yearlings that way. I rarely ever bought a horse that was a sharp 2-year-old. I was never into the sprinters. I was more into something that would stay a bit, and you had something to sell or you had something to go on. And that was I spent quite a lot of time at that. But as the time went on, and I remember one day I was doing the entries for the Curragh, and I just realised that, you know, it was so rare that I ever got a decent horse, you know, like, I mean, that I get a group horse, that I was going to struggle very hard to get to the top of the flat, because no matter how much money you hadn't enough money to compete with the likes of the Aga Khan and the Arabs, and then at the time, the Coolmore situation, Ballydoyle situation was only starting to come into being. Well, I suppose I shouldn't say it was only starting to come into being. It was changing around, shall we say. And I sort of made a conscious decision at the time, in about 94, 95, to change towards jumpers, and rather than buying yearlings every year, we'd buy store horses and buy horse out flat. So that worked very well, and we got to the top, and it was and it has worked very well.
You've won so many different races across the board, and now recently tallied 2,000, which is quite remarkable. And what I think's great is the fact that you've got so much of it documented here, not just on your walls, but actually in this book.
Yeah, well, no, I have to thank Gillian for that, because she gave me a present of that book last Christmas, and she got it made up by a guy, Martin Murphy did it for her, And it is, yes. I must say, it's a nice thing to have, and it started off he started off with my first winner, and it goes year by year through the race, the rider, and where it was, and from day one to present day. Well, to last November actually was the last entry that's in it. But
so 1971, the amateur maiden hurdle, no amateur of course. But jockey was Mr. Noel Meade, and also
the trainer.
Yeah.
That was the start of it, and that was I was a private trainer that year.
You won £202.
That's right, £202. That's right, and probably was very badly ridden. I think Dermot Weldon actually rode the second horse that day, which was he was the favourite, and I think he was second. So I was always proud of that fact.
And looking around the house as well, there's plenty of champion trainer trophies, taking you to 7 of those, and 9 times leading trainer as far as winners is concerned, and some good tussles with Mr. Mullins, your pal and rival.
Yeah. Yeah, Willie and myself are good friends. Willie won the championship 3 times, and I think, he's going to be extremely difficult to beat in the future at the moment, because he's got a hell of a string of horses at the moment.
But it's obviously something that's very important to you.
Yeah, it was. I think, over the last couple of years, maybe in one respect it was too important to me, and I pushed myself too hard, because you get totally into these things, and it actually becomes obsessive with you, and you sort of, it's you don't enjoy it as much when you get into that stage, and I think you're better off if you just roll along and enjoy the thing a little bit more than sort of be pushing yourself that hard.
Well, somebody that does push himself very hard in the last few seasons, especially, is Paul Nicholls. What do you think of his, newish campaign, if you like? Certainly the last year, and now this year, he's pushing to be leading trainer over in Ireland as well. He has the ammunition, doesn't he, to come over and be competitive in certainly the big chases anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about that now. He's had a fantastic couple of seasons, and he's a fantastic string of horses. He's built up a fantastic... It appears, just looking in from the outside, that he doesn't seem to have a bad horse in the yard. Every horse he has seems to be a potential champion of some description, and he's very difficult. But when that appeared in the Racing Post, where he said he was going to try to be champion trainer in Ireland, I sent a text to Willie, and I said to him, that things were bad enough about the way the economy was gone here, and that the builders were all struggling and whatever. I said, and now Paul Nicholls decided to come over here. I said, it's enough to drive a man to drink. And within seconds of sending him the text, I got a text back that said, where will we meet?
Even though the competition may be hotter this season, Noel will still be contesting the top races with his team of stable stars.
Running well would be understating CORSKEAGH Royale's achievements in bumpers, because obviously he's, his second at the Cheltenham Festival, and then at Punchestown, a good run there. He's a horse we're all looking forward to making his hurdle debut. He seemed to be going okay, though, when he fell, so would it be something you'd worry about?
No, he came out of the race okay. It was very unfortunate. It's just one of those things. He got trapped down the inner on him, and he tried to get out. He actually seemed to jump the hurdle okay. He kind of stumbled when he landed, but I would imagine that it was just with the general bunching and crowding over, like Barry was trying to hold Paul in, and that was his job, and Paul was obviously trying to get out. Just an unfortunate situation to get into. The horse was travelling very well, and I've little doubt that he'd have won had he got out. But hopefully he's okay. He's come out of the race well. We've had our physio just run over him, and she says he's okay.
Will you keep him at the 2 miles, or it just seems to be the way he came up the hill and everything? He looks like a horse who could get a bit.
Yeah, I'd have little doubt that he'd probably want further than 2 miles. Like when he started off in Galway on Monday, that was a 2 mile race in very, very testing ground. And
he likes that too, doesn't he?
Yeah, he goes well in testing ground. He's proved that last year, that he handles it very well. I'd have no fears with soft ground with him. I would think hopefully he'll get up there. He is a good jumper. He jumped well up until what happened to him the other day, and I think that was one of those just a one-off situation. I'd hope he would, and I would say 2.5 would be well within his compass.
Now, Fisher Bridge seems to have leapfrogged to the front of people's minds now that he's notched up a couple of successes and seemed to do it very well the other day at Punchestown.
Yeah, I was delighted with him. As I said, at Punchestown, the first day he won, we were absolutely gutted when he got beat the first time we ran him. We ran him last January, and at the time our horses just seemed to run into a blank. Never really discovered why, but he ran during that period, and we fancied him really well, and he just ran none. Well, I shouldn't say he ran none. He finished 6th or 7th, I think, but it was very disappointing for us because we felt he worked well. But we left him off after that, and he's come back after the summer's break and that long break, and it seems to have done him a lot of good. He won nicely his maiden hurdle, and he was good yesterday. I don't think yesterday's race was maybe even as good as his maiden race, because when he won his maiden, he beat Bob Lingo, who won yesterday as well. So, yes, I think he's a nice horse. He jumps well, travels well in the race, seems to have a change of gear.
You mentioned Bob Lingo. In behind him at Punchestown was Dan Dare, who's obviously got better from his first experience over hurdles. A nice horse that you've got from Sir Michael Stout and Philip Newton. Yes.
Yeah, I think he is a nice horse. I think he even improved from yesterday. The ground was very, very testing yesterday. He's plenty of speed, and whereas I do think he likes soft ground, I don't think he likes it just as heavy as it was yesterday. And I'd say he's a horse that will improve, and the best is yet to come with him.
Yeah, once the penny's dropping.
Yeah.
And Pandorama, he's a horse who's done absolutely nothing wrong, and clearly is nice. We saw him today with Nina on, and he looked in good shape. We
ran him in the point-to-point bumper in Fairyhouse in the spring, and he bolted up, and he ran back in NAAS there in a 2-mile 3 bumper, and he bolted up again. So I had actually toyed with the idea of putting him straight over fences, but we're going to start him off in a hurdle race. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see where we get to. If he's taken to jumping hurdles very well, he jumps brilliantly. So we'll go for a novice hurdle over 2.5 anyway, maybe a little bit further. Our maiden hurdle, and then we'll take it from there. But he's the makings of a nice horse.
Amongst the stayers, then, in the novice hurdle division, Sigma Lifestyle's another one.
Yeah, he was very good in NAAS on Saturday, and he did it very easily. He loves soft ground, and he stays 3 miles really well. He was second his first run in a decent race, and we were a bit disappointed with him after that, even though he finished second again, I think. But he's come back after the summer, and he's come out and he's won his 2 races well, and he improved a good bit from his first to his second, and he's a horse that stays well, and I like him, yeah.
So he looks to have a very bright future.
Yeah.
Talking about the future, it's always nice with these youngsters. I mean, he's a 3-year-old now, El Fontaine, but next year, 4-year-old. You always think about Triumph and races like that. But he's a horse that you bought from France, a Verglas.
Yes. I've always felt if you could get those 3-year-olds early enough before that they got too much kicking about on the flat, that they would be better off. So we bought him last January or February down in Kangsamar. He had won a race down there, and I was recommended on him, and I flew down and saw him and liked him. He's a big, strong 3-year-old, and brought him back and gelded him straight away and left him off then. He's come back in now, and he won his 2 runs very well. Both times he won easy, and probably maybe struggled a little bit the last day in the stall, but again it was very, very bad ground. But he got there and won well. He stays really well. He's a nice horse, and he's in great shape with himself at the moment, and jumps well, and I think he's a contender for wherever he goes.
Hidden Reserve is a mare who looks pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, she's a full sister to John Joe's horse, Crocodile Rock, and she won a bumper very well when she ran, and showed us a lot of ability before she ran. So we'd be sweet on her now if things went right with her, that with all these new mares races we have now, that she could be, she could be a pretty decent one. And
Muirhead is another one that you've chosen to obviously stick with the hurdle route. Unbeaten until Cheltenham.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I should have even run him in Cheltenham. we had, all through the spring, we had terrible problems with him trying to get him to eat, and to eat enough. And he got very, very light. He went to Cheltenham and he didn't feed in Cheltenham at all, and he was very shy in Cheltenham. And by the time he got to his race, there was very little of him left. And I think to run as well as he did, he probably did run well to do that. He had a good long break and he's back, and you know, he has to be a very decent horse to do what he done. He won a Grade 1 hurdle on the second run over hurdles, you know, so he's a pretty useful horse. Hopefully now he's on the way back. We'll keep him over hurdles. He's not a huge horse anyway. Although I'd say, despite that fact, I think he'll jump fences because he's very athletic.
And how will you start him off? I mean,
he'll have to start off against the good ones because he's a Grade 1 penalty.
Exactly.
So he'll start off in good races, and we'll see how we go.
As they come to the last, NICANOR, he jumped it a little bit awkwardly, but he's nicely cleared of Mount Henry. Staying on the outside is Vic Venturi, but running up towards the finish, NICANOR under Ruby Walsh is all out. Mount Henry is trying hard, but the line is going to come in time. NICANOR wins. NICANOR wins, the Dunboyne Castle and Spa champion.
NICANOR is a very talented horse who, as much as all the achievements that he has undertaken, one of them is obviously being when he beat Denman.
Yeah.
And that's kind of added to his fame. But he's been off since 2006 now.
Yeah,
and is he starting to come back?
Well, last season we had him very close to running at Christmas, and he ended up, he got a stress crack on his off shin, which held him up for, it was tiny, but it was there, so we had to stop for a month with him. By the time we got him back ready again, it was nearly Punchestown time, and we were going to have to run him in a Grade 1, and we felt that he mightn't have been ready enough to run him in that, and we didn't want to run him in an hour's chase at that stage of the season. So we left him off again. We had him back pretty close to being ready to run at the minute now, not that far away, but he has had a slight little setback again, and he's actually at this minute in time, he's swimming for the next fortnight. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But hopefully, I'm pretty hopeful that we'll get him back. We had him very close to being ready to run.
Aaron Concerto, it's going to be, you know, interesting to see him jump fences.
Yeah, he jumps well. He's been schooled. He's done quite a bit of schooling now, and he jumps very well at home anyway. And Paul has schooled him about quite a number of times now. He's in great shape now. Touch wood that he stays like that for the remainder of the season, or until we get him going again anyway. But he's in great shape, and hopefully he keeps going that way.
And Casey Jones is another one.
Yeah, I like Casey. Casey's a lovely big horse. Jumps fence as well. He was knocked down in his first chase, and then he was second in his next one in Fairy House, and then we ran him in Thurles, and he just couldn't handle the ground. It was too soft. It was very heavy that day, and he just couldn't handle it. He wants goodish ground, you know, and that's goodish. He doesn't need a fast ground or anything like that, but he just wants goodish ground.
They've got one to jump in the WBX.com fighting fifth, and Archibald has come to steal the race. Catchett can find no more. Al on the far side, and it's going to be Archibald now for Paul Carberry. Won the race 3 years ago, going to win it again. It's Archibald for the big money here. Al makes it Irish 1-2.
Archibald is quite a character. We've just been round to see him, who seems to know that he's been on film again.
Plans are that he will go to Newcastle, I'd say, for the fighting fifth, because whatever chance we have of getting good ground over there, we have nearly no chance of getting it here, because it's like, as you see this morning, we're completely flooded out again. We had a complete night's rain again last night, and it just seems to be going from one day to the next.
Do you sort of adjust his campaign now he is getting older? I mean, he's still only 9. It's not, you know, but to give him the best ground that he can have, and the sort of flatter-ish track, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that, like, it's most important that the most important thing is the ground. I don't think that the track makes that much difference, but the ground is the whole thing, the whole key to him. We need good ground. Like, I mean, even in the Christmas hurdle last year, the ground was just too sticky for him, and he got beat by Strawberry. But if
would you go back to Kempton?
Yeah, I'd say Kempton is quite possibly on the cards again as well. Yeah.
Jazz Messenger.
Yeah,
Again, I mean, his trip for him at the sort of 2.5 mile.
Yeah, he gets 2.5, but I think 2 miles is fine too. Jazzy probably has more ability than any of them, but he just doesn't jump as quick. It's not that he jumps badly, he jumps very well, but he just jumps his hurdles a little bit, and not as slick as Archie or Aitmatoff. He's just not as quick, and for that reason he just maybe hasn't got into it, but he has loads of ability, and he gets 2.5 miles. He's won over 2.5 miles, but he's quite good over 2 as well. He had a little bit of a setback at the end of the season there last year, and he's pre-training at the moment, but he's not here now. But I was talking to his owner just the other day, and he was telling me that he's almost ready to start back again here. So I'd say it'll be after Christmas before we'll see him on the track anyway.
And Aitmatoff.
Aitmatoff is probably I was kind of raging after last year that I didn't run Aitmatoff in the champion hurdle. I ran him in the 3 mile race, which he ran very well in, but he mightn't quite have got home in it. He's a good horse, Aitmatoff. He's a Grade 1 winner as well. He'll probably go back and run in the Hatton's Grace again. And
finally, we can't leave out dear old Watson Lake, who had his first start back in the Daily Star Chase, wasn't it, at Punchestown? And obviously that was hotly contested. We have 2 former Gold Cup winners taking each other on there.
Yeah, he did something he's rarely done before. He absolutely took a fence out by the roots, which knocked him totally out of the race at an early stage. Like just before the turn down the back, the one down at the bottom of the hill, he just missed it completely and landed on top of it. So Paul wisely just eased him down and just popped him around from there on home, because there's no point in trying to go after them at that stage. As you say, there were 2 Gold Cup winners and they were going a good, plenty fast in front. He's back well and he seems to be in very good shape. His best trip is probably 2.5, and realistically, he just needs to dodge the better horses and do that, which is not just that.
There are a couple of 2.5 mile options though. When you now we've got the 4 days at Cheltenham, things have been made a bit more.
But even that situation, the 2.5 mile chase at Cheltenham is probably not. Is maybe just a little bit too much for him. We have to maybe go down a little bit more. He's entered into Paddy Power. We'll see how he's handicapped, and we'll also see how he's behaving himself and how he's working up to that stage. We'll see how we go.
But the Paddy Power would hopefully be his next.
It could well be. There's a race in Punchestown as well. Maybe he might run there. We'll see how we are.
And finally, just where you see your strength and depth this year, because as we've looked through, I think for me, thinking of Aaron Concerto and Casey Jones and NICANOR and horses like this that are going to end up chasing, that is an exciting prospect. For me, personally, looking at your horses, I think it's probably biased because that's the division that...
Yeah, they're the ones you'd sort of think, but now it's like all stage, it's a most frustrating category as well, because like Rin Rowe, who we didn't speak about at all, started off, won his first novice chase and is like an exceptionally good horse, a really good horse, and he got a fall at the second last in Cork last Sunday, and he's broken a bone, chipped a bone in his hock, and in a simple fall, and also broken the bone on the back of his knee. Now the vets reckon he's going to be okay, but it just goes to show you, how the probability he's out for the season, and that's what you're up against with those chasers all the time. You know that you're fighting against injury, and whether they're good enough, number one, and then to keeping them sound and keeping them right is always a problem, you know.
So from start of season to end, you've made another fantastic start to the season, which seems to be year in, year out the way things go. But it's hard to keep consistency, isn't it, all the way through, right to the end? Yeah,
last year was terrible. I don't know what happened. They went bang at Christmas time, but I don't think that has ever happened to us before. We've had maybe I always sort of spared the horse a little bit through January because the ground was always very, very heavy. This year it's heavy at the start of the season. I haven't started as fast this season as most seasons, but then, or for the last couple of years, but that was a little bit by design as well. We just maybe slowed them down a little bit, but look, you need a bit of luck. You need things to go right at some stage during the year. There's going to be a stage when you think they're just not firing as well as they should be, and you have to slow down a bit. But that happens every year and happens to everybody too, you know. But it's if you can keep them healthy and sound, then that's the main thing, you know.